What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Rev-con Podcast episode. We are so glad that you guys are here. My name is Peju.
My name is Bullis Gago.
Hi, my name is Awale.
And I am Essa.
You thought I was going to say Dr. Bullis.
I did.
I know. But now they know.
You want to throw that in there?
No, so I don't know if it's pastor or doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Dr. Bullis.
Dr. Victoria.
Yes, and today we are going to be discussing...
wait.
Oh,
just
okay.
Just Peju?
Just Peju.
No doctor?
No.
No, just All right, just go.
But today we're going to be discussing worship culture in this generation. So, when I thought about this, it was like directed towards what worship looks like now, like worship music, and how worship is portrayed specifically in music worship. Like when you talk to someone like, oh, I was worshiping today, it's always like I was listening to a worship song. Like it was music. Yeah. And it's always like, and I just felt the spirit so heavy for like specific songs. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's interesting. The way we like talked about worship, where we're taught worship growing up versus the way worship looks now. Yeah. And the culture that it's created is like very interesting.
Yeah,
I just talked about this in church, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that I've noticed a huge change with just how worship is, and the different artists that are coming out or are coming from church, but now are artists, and it's just a very interesting turn. Yeah. You know, now they have their own concerts that, people are attending. It's just interesting. So,
what do you mean? Like people that grew up in church are having their own concerts, or people that came out of groups?
No. So, like, let's say there's a church, right?
Yeah.
The church does really well at worship. Now they have a group that now has their own artistry on the side. And so now people are now following the artist as opposed to following the church.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's definitely a thing. Yeah. And not even just like following the artist as opposed to following the church, more so like as opposed to like, are you following the artist or God?
Yes. That's what I mean.
I see a lot of that. Yeah. That worship of the artist.
Yeah.
Well, my main concern too though is, okay, so how I think we should talk about how worship, this is our generation we're talking about. We're talking as civilized.
Yeah, we gotta call them out.
We're not even.
We gotta call them out.
We're not even comparing like worship now to our parents' generation.
Right.
We're even saying we noticed the difference.
Yeah.
So what's that difference that we noticed, right? Like where did we start to go? Wait, this is not it. Because for me personally, I think where I started noticing it wasn't it was it looks like. We went through a time where we were desperate for Christ. We wanted to know Christ, right? It was like that we started listening to older preachers, like new preachers were coming out. We were trying to know this Jesus. But then I noticed how, this pastor started coming out looking fresh. Yeah. I started noticing the jeans started coming in. And then I started noticing the songs started coming out. Yeah. But then that's when I even noticed something was really wrong until our parents' generation started making podcasts. Like they started having podcasts. So I was like, what are you talking about? Right? So that's when I started noticing. But any of you notice?
Yeah. For me, I noticed like I didn't even grow up specifically in a Nigerian church, but I did notice, like, for example, in Nigerian churches, like us growing up, the songs that we sing are very simple.
Yeah.
Like very simple songs, and you just felt the power of God, even in the repetition of singing those simple songs. Yeah. And it was almost like a reciprocity of the simplicity of the gospel. Yeah. Like the same way that God kind of brings that to us, it was like us just using that simplicity and then being able to like glorify God in music worship in that aspect versus the culture now that's been created and established is like lyrics that more so connect with our emotions and our feelings, which I think is good to a certain extent. Like Jesus can relate to us emotionally, like, that's what he did while he was here. But at the same time, it's like, worship has become more so about how it benefits us. And it's very aesthetic. Like this whole worship culture now, like I love Maverick City. I went to their concert last year. I'm gonna just throw the name out there because I know somebody's waiting. Somebody's waiting on hearing the name. Who not talking about?
It was funny. Like I was with a group of friends and we were watching like just a whole Maverick City playlist on YouTube. And it was like, wow, they have like this really cool thing about them. You just have to have colored hair. You just have to have the ripped jeans.
The tattoos.
And you have to have a piercing. You just have to.
Just
like, it was like, this is the aesthetic that is kind of.
Okay, so that edgy, I'm not in a box.
Yeah.
I can be all things to all mankind.
There's pros and cons to it, though.
I think so. I think that this is the old school pastor talking. I think we run into trouble when we have to stage something. I think that we run into trouble when we have to create an image to show that we're not those weird people anymore. We're cool. I think when if you have to have that motive, then the motive is already jacked up. Because I think that for worship to be worship, first of all, worship, I think we still haven't really defined it.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, worship is that it's what the Bible talks about in Romans, I believe, chapter 12. Offer yourself as a living sacrifice. And that is your worship.
Yes.
That is worship.
Yes.
Worship is meant to literally be offering you to God. Right?
Yes.
And so what we're considering worship as a people now is based on the tempo of the songs. Typically what works now is we have to be all standing in like a U-shaped circle, and the musicians are in a kind of a group, and make sure when the camera hits you, your eyes are closed, or you're looking down intently, and you're like, you're doing this or that, the sway, or you just get. This right here is the Holy Spirit.
That's not tribal worship.
No, that's not Bethel right here, right? So I feel like the words of a song, right, is as crucial as for it being considered worship. I don't know if that makes sense. And if worship is to offer me to God. And worship is for me to be made available to the voice of God.
Yeah.
Then words of slow songs that always edify me to think of me and my ability to feel that I am a conqueror and I am the center of this worship. I think that isn't worship anymore. The reason why old school songs seem to just work is because you listen to them. They're about this is who God is. Even if it's talking about us, it's like I was struggling, but God came through. But today it's like He made me victorious over that enemy. I was down, but it's me that is being navigated. It's like me centered versus God centered, and I think that's when it's not worship anymore.
Yes, I love that point because I think, just like you said, when people in this day and age consider worship, it's like, if I give God the glory, what is He going to give me in response to that? And it's like, worship essentially...
Give ain't been given to you.
God doesn't need our worship. When we worship God, it's like, the worship is really for us because in worship we look more like God, like we look more like Christ. And so I think we've lost that whole aspect of worship, looking more like God and less about aesthetics and how hard the drums are hitting at this certain part of the song and how the runs and it's hard for me because I'm a singer.
I gotta hit it. No, you good. You can keep going.
Since you brought that up, as being a worship leader, what do you think is the correct boundary to what are you pushing?
Well, how do you get your motives right?
How do you are you the star of the show? Are you worshiping? Or are you just performing? Or are you ministering? What are you offering to the congregation when you're leading worship?
Right. I guess she asked you a question because.
Oh yeah.
And I'm
those leads too.
I know.
No, I know. Yes, you did. I gave up. I retired. My motives were not clean.
I only lead at home. I'm a worship leader, so I can't do that.
The question really is, right? It's. I think it's harder for worship leaders today.
100%.
Because so I think we've become desensitized because there's so many videos now.
Yeah.
And now we know what, quote unquote, proper worship should look like. So now when a local church worship leader doesn't look like that, doesn't hit those runs,
right, or doesn't sing the right songs, then some people aren't gonna.
Yeah.
Or I know how the track went. Right? Yeah. At this point, they went.
Supposed to do something.
Yeah. So it did not. Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's harder now for worship leaders to actually lead people in worship.
Yes.
Yeah.
In worship.
Yeah,
in
that's
worship.
so good.
Because I mean, we might as well just play the track in church at this point.
Yeah.
Save money.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
It's unfortunate because I think if we actually, just like you mentioned the scripture in Romans, like if we're actually living out like a lifestyle of worship, we should become so familiar with what the presence of God looks like that we don't actually have to tap into a specific song to know what that feels like or to get to that specific point.
I agree.
And I think that's why you have congregation members who come in and they're like, oh, well, I know the song's supposed to sound this way, or homie ain't playing the right chords. Like, but it's like you being familiar with God's presence, like outside of this, like it shouldn't even be like you waiting for them to actually start playing music.
Yeah.
Like the moment that you step into the building, it's like, ooh.
Or you came in with the presence of God, right? You rubbed off on the building.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because you've just been in the presence of God. You dedicated in the presence of God.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, but let me talk about personally, right? From a pastoral perspective, why I think it's getting harder. We're in a culture where societally that word? As a society, we're life is becoming more simplistic, right? As a society, we're trying to get rid of complication.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, if you've been a Christian for more than 5 minutes, it's complicated, right? Offering yourself, deny yourself, pick up your cross and follow Christ, that's the hardest thing in this generation. But there is no worship without that. So what's happening is, I think the worship songs, right, somehow I feel like because we're releasing them, not that it's wrong, God is still leading a lot of songs, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned Maverick, Jireh.
Yeah.
I listened to that on the way today, right?
Same.
Yeah.
So the truth about it, even though we're still releasing it, we have to let people know that being in the presence of God is not allowing the waves of the music to create some sort of hormonal reaction in your head, and you thought that was the presence of God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The presence of God is I heard someone say once, is practiced. The presence of God is something that's not felt. It's something by faith you dwell in.
Yes.
It governs the way you think.
Exactly.
So if literally the presence of God for you is that feeling you have during worship, you have not felt the presence of God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the presence of God guides who you are, He molds your mind. How you live becomes the embodiment of Christ. That's the presence of God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the question really is, how do we get back to that, I'm going to say it, complication, where we are more about giving ourselves to God and actually remaining in the presence of God. Offer yourself as a living sacrifice.
Yeah. Well, I have a question. Is it, just based off of what you said, is it the artist's fault that those listening are not necessarily worshiping the way that they should?
Yeah.
Should they not be having the aesthetics?
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing?
I want to add to that question too, because
Who y'all asking?
I'm gonna add to that question too. It's just like we talked about previously about like pastors and how their goal now is to kind of appeal to the younger generation.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this young generation does have questions, and maybe to make the experience quote unquote easier for them, they do things like making music, like Christian music, that sounds a lot like secular music, and things like that.
Okay, so I'm not answering your question, but I am. Okay, so let me put it this way. I do think that the Christian faith needs to be more influential now in every sphere of life. What we're calling secular music, right, has been hijacked. Right? Where, yes, it's worldly, but I also think Christians need to be in that sphere. Was that lady that got welcomed by Ellen DeGeneres and the whole world went crazy?
Kimbrough?
No, she's Christian. she's Christian, and she was on Ellen, and everybody was like, "Oh no, Ellen liked her. She's not Christian." It's a Christian artist. Yeah. She has one of these twangy voices. I thought that was brilliant that she was on Ellen. Because, you see, I honestly believe that if we can take back music, right, by being Christians, singing music, that, yes, would cause people to say, I want to know this person. When they know the person is of God.
Yeah.
Opposed to us, Jesus, 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 Jesus in a song, Reef, look, you are secular.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that we're trying to figure out. Like, where does everyone stand?
Right.
Where's the line? Yeah.
You asked the question. What was your question? Because I did want to say something.
My question is it the artist?
Is it the artist's fault? If you watch Maverick City, you know what I find very funny? They're trying hard. If right before I'm watching their videos, they would be like, "We're not here for us. We're here for Jesus." Especially the lady, the lady's voice. She's the one that sings in Gyro. What's her name?
Naomi.
Naomi. I almost said Naomi. Naomi. Like this way she said it. She tries so hard. If you watch it, I promise, go watch it. She would be like, we don't care about how we're dressed. It's the Lord. We're here to see. And I think this other dude that's usually on there with her doesn't like that statement. But I'll just keep my own opinion to myself. But she's usually trying. And I think the reason why she's trying is because you could tell that there are young people that are flocking to Maverick City concerts. Yeah, because Christian music is starting to become a trend.
Yes.
It's just a trend. It's a trend, right? Yeah. So I don't believe that we can blame the artists.
Right.
But at the same time, the artists need to do a better job of preaching that gospel. At the concert, hey guys, like literally, I know we keep saying it's not about our clothing, but some of you guys are really making it about our clothing. I know you're actually like here because we hit this level on the chart, and there's a group of us, because like when people are usually starting off, people don't usually like to identify with it because you're just starting off. When they see a crowd, they want to be a part of it. So it's just a trend. So there's blame to pass around to anybody, to be honest with you. Yeah. Everyone can just do a better job, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing because, we are supposed to be in the world and, spreading the gospel, just as long as the message behind it is just that.
Yes.
And that should be exactly what we're giving to people as opposed to anything else. I agree with you. I do believe that Christians should be I think that's what we're trying to do when it's about our dressing. We're trying not to be repulsive because look at how many young people are leaving.
Right.
Look at that. And if a piece of jeans ripped is gonna bring them, I'm gonna rip from up to my underwear.
I mean, you're not. Okay.
Yes, I am. You're not. If somebody gonna come to Jesus, we're coming in our boxes. Like you gonna see things that
I think it's because they're dressed just like how they dress.
Yeah. Right? So it's relatable.
It's relatable. Yeah. It's more relatable.
It's hard.
I see it as there are pros and cons, like I was saying earlier. Like there is a new generation, because I don't want to be up here because Maverick City. Like I'm not. I listen to the music, and like I said, like I went to their concerts. My sister and I, we was listening to these songs earlier this morning after church. Yeah. But just like. You're bringing in a young crowd of people, which is great. But at the same time, I really like what Pastor Willis said. Dr. Willis said.
I'm a pastor.
Okay.
Pastor
Dr. Willis said about like preaching the gospel. Like even in concerts, you don't see that anymore. Yeah. Like, you don't see like the Billy Graham and the Ravi before the internet. I had to. Yeah.
Before it came out.
Like bringing people back to Christ. I know that some of you here love our music, but have you received Jesus to be your Lord and personal Savior?
Justin Bieber's, the Elvis. I mean, we could talk about that.
But I remember you were saying something a few weeks ago too about like how a lot of worship songs too sound more like love songs.
Talk about those lyrics.
The lyrics.
Yeah.
Look, this is what I say. If you're gonna be a Christian person writing about love, make that noticed. Like, that's good. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But if you say you wrote a song and it's Jesus, and you say stuff like, we touched each other, like, We wrapped around each other. You lifted me, set me on his knees. You know, like we got into his eye. He kissed up on my head.
Okay.
No, I've heard songs, right?
Any of these?
I know these. Like, go listen to some of these Christian songs. You're like,
yeah.
Did you have sex up there?
Right.
Honestly, because look at it. Like, we touched. Did you touch my heart?
Especially the Afrobeat Christian songs. Some of them you really have to like.
I don't know.
I haven't explored.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard.
Sometimes I have to watch my hips listening to some of those songs. I'm like,
But you know, that's cultural.
Very
cultural.
Where is this podcast going?
That's cultural because in our culture, like, you have to be dancing and stuff.
I know. Jesus, there. Both hands going to knee. Oh! Wow. Okay, so this podcast is going down real quick now. No, but you're absolutely right? It's the disposition of our heart. So it's not that we're judging it. I think the disposition of our heart is very necessary, right? It's not, are you in the Christian label? Are you in the world label? I think that more Christians need to be in that area. Why? Because we need to take back music and literally make it known that we're not afraid to chill with the big boys, right? We're not afraid to actually like produce music, but we are lovers of Christ, and that's how we change culture.
Yes.
If we stay in our bubbles, we're not going to be able to change culture.
Yeah.
So as long as we're changing culture, but we're not of the world, right? We can dress it, but I don't think if the motive should be, I need to stage something in order to do something. Be yourself. Right? If it is not you, don't try to be it. Just be you. If you're not accepted for you, then that's cool. If you gotta adjust you to be more like what Paul says, be all things to all men, doesn't mean he was fake. It was just he was able to express who he was in context, different contexts. We just need to know how to do that.
Right.
Well, so we don't need to adjust nothing to win motives. We just gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
We good?
Yeah,
Good.
All right, that's all we got. Thank you for joining us. Do follow us and do recommend somebody, and do write us the topics you think we should be discussing. We would love to hear from you. Love you. Bye-bye.